Hey folks, AP Lit gang, this is Mr. Casey. It's Sunday afternoon and I'm just checking in, making a quick video regarding our work for the week in our classes. So we're diving into Invisible Man. As you know, we talked a little bit in the last class about, we read a little bit of the prologue. Actually, one of our classes did and one didn't. But we're talking first about two things. This concept, the narrator's concept of invisibility. What it means. He lays it out pretty carefully, but if you would write a quick paragraph saying, to the best of your understanding, what does he mean by invisibility? It's not maybe what, the traditional definition might be. And it's also going to become a major motif all throughout the story. One of the things Ellison does in this story, and it's consistent, we'll talk about his literary terms in a minute, but his storytelling style comes from the oral tradition in a lot of ways, and that involves kind of looping images and motifs over and over again, and the way one might in musical loop with a musical line. So we got to know about this visibility business. This is going to be really important. What does he mean? What does it mean to be invisible or visible, and how is that determined? And secondly, a short paragraph I'd like you to write describing what the place he's in looks like in the prologue. The way things look matters a lot in this story. Is it darkness, light? Are things really clear? Are things not so clear? And how does that affect his, his sort of attitude and his tone and his mood? So what is the place like that he's in the prologue? It's important because it's actually, the book begins at the end. The prologue is the same. He's in the same place and at the same time that he is at the end of the book. So the whole book is basically a flashback from his hole in the ground beneath New York. So what is that place like? It's a pretty famous description, and it's also very allegorical. It's going to teach us a lot about what his existential journey is like and why he ends up the way he does. So just two quick paragraphs to bring to class for that. In class this week, we're going to look at aspects of the battle royale in chapter 1, the famous boxing scene. And in front of me, I've got some literary terms we're going to work on as we look through this. We're going to work, we talked a lot about, let me get my thingy out here. Here we go. Watch this. Ooh, here we go. Setting and illusion. Setting's important. We talked a lot about that with Olive Kitteridge, but illusion, especially cultural references. That's why we spent last class talking about all these cultural references. They matter a lot in Ellison's storytelling technique. His illusions are critical. Idiom, that sort of figures of speech unique to his cultural heritage, things like that really inform a lot of the meaning of the story. Images. Why would images be so important in a story? What's the main motif of this whole story? What's the whole issue in the story? The way things look. So images and who controls images and which images are used and how are they used is a huge issue throughout the story, and as it's been throughout history. It's one of the reasons we talked about people like Louis Armstrong and these sort of folks. And we're going to talk about how words and diction, which is word choice, creates mood. So the way words are chosen, again, for their meaning, for their musical sort of content, for their cadence, and for their references, for their sort of shout outs, their allusions. All that is a big deal throughout this. And it all is because this story really is coming out of the oral tradition, which we'll talk about in class. It's really a lot of African Americans of the time were fairly newly literate, a generation or two in, and very strongly steeped in the oral tradition, which has a different storytelling style than what we would think of as traditional literature. All right, I've got to sign out here, but this is what we're going to be talking about this week in class, and it was just so much fun to mess around with this little flashlight thing. And we are going to get ready for a writing prompt the week after. So that's kind of what we're doing here. We're going to do our first writing prompt. Okay, I've got to sign off, folks. It's going to shut me down. Have a good Sunday, and I'll see you soon.